they can't hear it, they won't feel it. Chuck at TechArts here. Today's interview explores how a well-designed sound system can transform student engagement in every venue. We're fortunate to have Anthony Zegarra from Downey Unified School District with us to step through his journey from awful to awesome. Anthony, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it, making time for this.
My pleasure.
I'm hoping it becomes a great resource for a lot of people that are considering improving their systems the way we've done that for you. So, what is your role currently at Downey Unified School District?
So currently my role is Administrator of Business Services for the Downey Unified School District, and I've been working in Downey Unified for approximately 20 years. Started off as a teacher, administrator, site principal, and finally in this current role where I get to do quite a bit to oversee projects, site improvements, programmatic improvements. I get to work with our budgets and ensure that our dollars are spent in wise ways so that they will have some longevity to them and we're able to maximize what we can do for our kids.
Wonderful. That's quite the progression. And that was over a 6-month period?
Over approximately 20-year period.
Wow.
Working in Downey Unified.
That's what it takes. Wow. So what was your role with the district when you first started working with TechArts?
So I was, at the time we met, an assistant principal at Downey High School. And I was tasked with taking a look at our sound system in our gymnasium. Oh, yeah. And that was kind of where we started. So I was introduced to you through a friend who you'd done some work for at a church, and that was how I got your contact.
What were some of the problems you had choosing who to hire before you hired TechArts?
So we had some really old equipment in the gym that had been put in at least a decade prior, and we were having some technical difficulties with it. It had kind of aged out, and we needed a refresh. And so I reached out because I'd known Paul had done a lot of work, a lot of AV work with churches, and asked him if he was available to do any of that work. He said no. I have a guy named Chuck Mitchell who owns TechArts, and he'd be a great guy to do that project. So we called you up and we had you out, and we were really looking for something special for our gym, and we wanted to take it up a level, and you were able to help us do that.
Well, what were some of the frustrations you encountered with those other gyms? Because you did a lot of gymnasiums that were new buildings, and right out of the gate, you had some issues with those. I think mainly the middle schools, right, were the new gyms.
So I think a couple of our prerequisites for our projects were that we had, number one, a relationship with the vendor so that we had some really high quality support. Schools typically keep employees for quite a long time. However, roles change within schools, coaches change, ASB directors change, and making sure that they understand how to utilize the products that are put in those spaces to run their performances or to run their events is key. So having a person who could install high quality gear but also provide high quality service and support on the back end was a big prerequisite for our projects, and that was something you were able to outline in your proposal, and we decided to go with you.
Well,
and
I'm glad
consequently, we went and did a ton more work, a ton more projects.
Very true. Well, I know that our presentation included like additional equipment that a lot of people might not be presenting, but a lot of it was sensitivity to the culture there and students. What made you decide to spend the extra money for a high performance sound system in all the gymnasiums? Well, all the venues that we've worked with you on.
So I feel like, and I've done a ton of projects, not just AV projects, but just a ton of other facility related projects. And a big part of what we select vendors for and product type has to do with sustainability. So when we dig into, do we go with a cheaper product or do we go with a high quality product that's going to provide us years of service? Our choice is to make that initial investment now, as products tend to increase in price, and things are more expensive doing them twice than doing them once. So we found that out the hard way a couple of times, and it was important that we picked products that were of top quality. And you did a good job of massaging those conversations and saying, well, you could go with this, or we could go with this, which has a little bit more expandability or has a little bit more functionality and feature that you may want to use down the line. So it wasn't just a proposal, it was a relationship that really has continued to evolve over, I believe we've been doing business together well over a decade.
Oh yeah.
So it's a mutually beneficial relationship, 100% on our end.
Same here. We really love working with you guys, and of course it means a lot to me because it is my legacy coming from Downey, and I don't know what, a dozen projects probably we've done.
All of our secondary schools.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure doing all of that. And correct me if I'm wrong, was the first project at Downey in that gym, was that the first time that you deployed like pretty heavy duty subwoofers?
Prior to our first project together, there were no subwoofers that were installed in any of our spaces. If they were, I don't believe they were working. So it was just kind of mids and highs, an old Bose system that wasn't quite working well and needed to be replaced. So we decided to go, per your recommendation. We don't have an AV background. I don't have an AV background, but I had project management background and really wanted to make it special. So you helped us out with that.
And you know it sounds good.
Yes.
For sure. You know it sounds good, and you know what good functionality should look like. So I think adding subwoofers was kind of a key thing that we've carried forward into all of the projects so that the students can play the music that they like.
Yeah, and we wouldn't do a project now without a subwoofer. It just doesn't give you the full range of sound that audiences are looking for.
Well, what are some of the different requirements for your outdoor sound systems versus your indoor sound systems?
One of the biggest would be a simplicity of use, and you guys were able as a company to provide that with our outdoor sound systems, which we've done 2 at Downey High and 1 at Warren High, and both have the same functionality at both places. So irrespective of where an event's taking place, there's uniformity for the end user, and that was another big piece of all of our projects, is that we wanted it to be the same wherever we were at. But
Nice.
As far as sound quality, there is no difference. So you were able to achieve that outdoor as well as on our indoor projects, aside from our large outdoor projects, which were our stadium projects. So that has the same quality of sound irrespective of environment, and that uniformity again was important to us.
Yeah, we're very proud of that stadium, what we've achieved, especially within the budget on your stadium projects. And the key component was making sure that quality was going to apply to a much larger space. Mm-hmm. So, yes, it required two dual 18-inch subwoofers, not to get in the weeds, but put one of those on each side of the press box with 10,000 watts each. And yes, the stadium has bottom end the same way it would in a smaller venue. But we had to put thousands of watts in there, and all those speakers. That was a great project for us.
That was an amazing project for us.
And it sounds great too. I mean, every time I listen to it, it's just wow. You've been to a lot of high school stadiums. What do you think is commonly missed in the stadiums that you've visited?
I think where we go wrong as a public entity is we have an architect design a project, and they typically will build in sound into those projects, and we don't consult with somebody who does AV for a living. So that has been a component of these projects for me that is, it can either really sour a space or it can really bring the space alive. And so you mentioned earlier in our conversation that we built 4 brand new gymnasiums at our middle schools, all which came with sound according to the architect and their particular employee that wrote that into the plan, without consulting a professional. And so we ended up having to redo all those spaces because it just wasn't engineered well. And then I recall, not to beat the stadiums up, but I recall as we discussed those stadiums, we went round and round with modeling because we wanted to make sure that it sounded good in the spaces we wanted it to sound good in. And so, and I would say that's not unique to the stadiums, but that's unique to all your projects. You model what we're looking for, and that's how we proceed with picking products to install. So that I don't believe was done in those gyms. They kind of did the chicken before the egg. I'm going to draw it all out, and then that's what we're going to do instead of building the space, modeling some sound equipment, and then speccing out, instead of particular product, they should have specced out a budget and said, okay, we're going to spend $300,000 on gear. Cool. Then we could have put the proper gear into that space.
And get it right the first time.
And that's what you ended up having to do. So we ended up having all that extra gear that we, didn't necessarily get to reuse. Some of it you were able to repurpose. On some of it you weren't. So
yeah.
But man, they sound great now.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we got it right. We got it right the first time, but
Yes.
for you, unfortunately, it meant getting it right the second time.
Right.
Which that kind of inefficiency makes me crazy and drives a lot of the passion for how we work as well. We really want to get in early enough with architects, especially because they have to put something down.
Right.
When it comes to spending the dollars on the stuff that we've done, all the sound systems, how has that improved student engagement?
I would say it's massively improved student engagement. So throwing events, rallies, sporting events, you name it, inviting the community in and renting the space out and allowing the community to utilize the space for their purposes. That adds a layer of professionalism that they are able to project to their audience that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Having that being built into those facilities is special. It just really is the icing on the cake, and I'm proud of the work that we've been able to do together. It's
Nice.
made our facilities, and the feedback we get from outside groups, outside teams that come through, man, how did you make this sound this good? I said, we didn't. TechArts did. If you'd like his card, I can give you his card and his contact. But
That's awesome.
They're the ones that did it. And the thought that went into it, and the relationships that we've built over the years is what makes things work. It's a people business.
It is.
It's AV, but it's a people business.
What other advice would you give school district leaders that want to increase student engagement through technology?
I would suggest that in this growing trend and current climate in education of declining enrollment, that putting your best foot forward as a district, programmatically for students as well as highlighting your facilities is always going to be a draw for families and students to want to be at your schools. So I think Downey's really capitalized on that. Utilizing technology in ways to increase enrollment is a fantastic use of dollars that actually brings dollars back in. So, we've been fortunate to not have a declining enrollment issue in Downey Unified, and I can't say that that's the case for a lot of surrounding districts, unfortunately. And utilizing the dollars that you have to do these projects once and have them be done correctly really will allow you to maximize your efforts to bring people in to see those spaces and hopefully matriculate to your sites.
That's cool. That's good advice. I appreciate you making time for us. This is great. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yes, I always love
It's
working
always
with you,
fun
buddy.
to spend time with you.
You too, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you. If this was helpful, check out our other TechArts videos, subscribe for more, and visit our website to see our latest projects and integrations.